So I'm going to kind of be direct and on point, I hope. I've been up since 4 a.m., so if I'm not, Ed will kick me. Hi, I'm Craig. I run an insurance company. Nobody told me that when I was going through the vetting process, and all the pundits who told me all my challenges as a FEMA administrator never mentioned the flood insurance program. But let's look at it this way, because I think the problem is people try to look at things and make it fit their paradigm, and I have to deal with reality. I run an insurance company. My board of directors is the U.S. Congress, and everybody in this room is a shareholder. But unlike a lot of other companies, my shareholders, you, can actually benefit from the product that I provide. Some of you don't even buy my product and will still benefit if an event occurs that would otherwise have triggered a payout based upon you participating in my program. I am required by law to provide insurance based upon risk with some caveats. I can't increase my rates more than 10% a year, so currently I am not actually basing my risk upon what that threat is because I am behind in that. 2, I'm not allowed to generate significant profits or invest those dollars somewhere else to build up financial reserves to do the payout. 3, I have a weird customer base that the only people that actually buy my product by and large have a pre-existing condition. Because there's this other law that says if you have a federally backed mortgage and you live in a high-risk flood area, 1% or more per annum, you are required to buy flood insurance as a condition of having your being able to get that mortgage. Which means that the bulk of the population, A, does not have flood insurance. Those that do see this as an unfunded or requirement from the federal government that is punitive, particularly when previously they've lived in total ignorant bliss of their risk until we do risk mapping and suggest that perhaps the risk is a little bit greater than what they thought. And oh, by the way, it triggers this requirement to purchase flood insurance for the first time. And they see that as the federal government making them buy that insurance. And so they go to my board of directors and they want an out. They want an exemption. They want to be, as part of the shareholders, more special than the rest of the shareholders so they don't have to pay that because they think it's unfair because they've lived here all of their life or the last 5 weeks, whichever is longest, and it's never flooded. And my board of directors, who have to be elected by these shareholders, by the way, oftentimes are very responsive to that. However, there was some very smart staff and members several years back that when they rewrote some of these provisions in the federal law enabling us to run this insurance company, they knew the temptation would be there to do that very thing. So they took out just about any bit of discretion that the administrator would have to grant any variances for people that suddenly find themselves at a higher risk. To the point at which I have been suggested that I'll have to hire my own pallbearers to haul me to my funeral because I got to be the most unpopular person in parts of this country as we map areas because I won't give these poor people a break. Well, my board of directors made sure I couldn't. They pretty well wrote the National Flood Insurance reauthorizations in such a way that I am bound by the law to provide flood insurance to those individuals at a rate based upon risk. And I was also funded to update those maps to more accurately reflect that risk using the best science and technology. Now that's kind of an interesting process as well, as I have found out listening to the staff's reports that we probably have, we make mistakes, but our mistake rate is phenomenally low compared to the amount of product that's out there. But you make one mistake and they're going to use that to basically paint the whole program. But I have actually been in interesting conversations where I've had a county commission begging me to invoke our maps as soon as possible because it's going to take a whole lot of their community out of a flood zone risk and move them to a much lower risk, and they won't have to have that mandatory requirement. But the city commissioners and the mayors are begging me to do everything I can to stall and implement it because they're going to go into a mandatory purchase zone. Same county. Same community. So I run this insurance company. And the other thing about this is, because of our unique constitution, the federal government can only bribe states and local officials to do stuff. All this stuff we're talking about up here is because we got money. And if you want it, you got to play by our rules. And generally, the federal government has very little to say about growth management, zoning, where you're going to build, and how you're going to build. We have very little to say about what codes you're going to use in building, except in flood insurance. Because if you want to have it, you have to adopt a minimum standard of regulations to hopefully minimize and mitigate future flood risk. Well, there's a lot of other federal agencies that don't even have that. So they look at our tools as an interesting way to move other agendas. So now I find myself coming on board that I am actually an enabler. I am promoting growth and development in areas we probably shouldn't be doing that because it's causing impacts to endangered species. So now I have consent agreements against my organization for providing flood insurance. I didn't zone it. I didn't tell anybody to build there, and I don't issue the first building permit that I can find anywhere in this country. But I am being held accountable because my product allows people to do things that actually can impact sensitive areas, environmentally destructive growth and development, because I'm also subsidizing risk. Actually, you are. You're the shareholders.